Hi friends, welcome to all of you in Basic Vedic Mathematics course. So what we did in our last session, we have seen the squaring of numbers, especially the two-digit numbers, by a spatial method. And there we used the formula a plus b whole square is equal to a square plus 2ab plus b square. So what are we going to do today? Today we are not going to do squaring, but yes, we are going to do the square root of numbers, and in particular we shall try to find out the square root of numbers which are perfect square. The square root of numbers which are square root of perfect squares. Now what do you mean by perfect square? Now you multiply any square, make square of any number, 8 square, it becomes 64. So 64 is a perfect square because in its root, the root is 8 where there is no decimal at all, right? So it's a perfect square. Similarly, if I say 9 square is equal to 81, 81 is a perfect square. So today we are going to see if there is any perfect square, how can we find out the square root of that number. So finding the square root of the perfect squares, that's what we are going to see today. Well, let us start with it. The square root of perfect squares. Well, to do it, there are certain things which you have to see, certain things you have to remember. The first thing is that you have to remember, to find the square root of bigger numbers, you have to remember the square of the smaller numbers, in particular from numbers from 1 to 25. You should remember the square of this number. Say for example, 1 square is equal to 1, that you know, 2 square is equal to 4, 3 square is equal to 9. Everyone knows about it. Nothing special. 4 square is equal to 16. Similarly, 24 square is equal to 576 and 25 square is equal to 625. So up to this number, from 1 to 25, you are expected to remember so that you can do the square root of bigger numbers which are perfect square easily, right? But if at all, sometimes you do not remember, we have already seen in squaring of numbers, there you can find out by making squaring of 25, you can always find out what is the square of 625. It will take only seconds to find out 25 square 625. You can always find that. So in this case, where if you do not remember, refer to those things and you should be able to make the square of 25. But otherwise, my suggestion is this: you should remember this thing which is very clear, and most of the people knows about it. Say maybe some these 23, 24, 25 may be little difficult for you to remember, but it's not a difficulty at all. So you can always do it. So please do that. Remember the squares of the numbers from 1 to 25 so that we can get the result of bigger numbers. And the second thing, this was the first thing. The first point was that remember the 1 to 25 squares. 1 to 25 squares. And the second aspect is something important. You know, when you make a square, if you make a square of 2, it ends in 4. If you make square of 3, it ends in 9. If you make a square of 4, it ends in 6. That means what? If there is a number, a square is 4, its root must be, the first digit of the root must be 2. Similarly, if in any square the first digit is 9, then the digit in the ones place is 9, then in its root the first digit must be 3. Similarly, if it is 6, then the first digit must be 4. So like this, you have to remember certain things. You others know about it. Just only remember means just you to become careful. If there is any in its square, the last digit, the digit in the ones place is 1, then in the root, the first digit must be either 1 or 9. because 1 into 1, 1, or 9 into 9 is 81, right? Similarly, if there is the first, in the digits first place there is 4, it must have, in the root, the first digit must have been 2 or 8, because 2 square becomes 4, 8 square becomes 64. Similarly, 5. 5, any number which ends in 5, if it is a square, must have started with the number 5 only, because say 25. The first digit is 5, so the root must have been 5, because 5 square is 25, right? So similarly, if the first digit, the digit in the ones place is 6, it must have been originated by the root from the number either 4 or 6, because 4 square is 16, or 6 square is 36, right? Similarly, if there is 9, it must have started from 3 or 7, because 3 3s are 9 and 7 7s are 49. And if it is 0, then it must have started from 0. So just do remember, not remembering, you otherwise know about it. You can just think about it. 4, it comes from 2 or 8, right? And here these numbers are complementary to each other. Just see it, 1 plus 9 is 10, 8 plus 2 is 10, 6 plus 4 is 10, 3 plus 7 10. They are all complement of each other. So 1, 4, 5, 6, 9, 0. That means what? In any perfect square, the first digit, the digit in the 1 place must be 1, 4, 5, 6, 9, 0, any of this. It cannot be 2, 3, 7 or 8, because there is no number the square of which is 2. Is there any number? You can think about it. There is no number whose square is 2, or there is no number whose square is 3, there is no number whose square is 7, there is no number whose square is 8. So, in a perfect square, these numbers will not be there. If it is there, then it is not a perfect square, and you cannot find out the square root of that number by this method what you are going to do right now. Later on we will see even the decimals and everything, but right now we are going to see only the square root of perfect squares. So 1, 4, 5, 6, 9, 0 are the numbers which must be as the first digit of any perfect square, and we are going to find out how you can find out the square root of those numbers, but you have to remember this. Well, so I'll whip it out and we'll start seeing, take some example and start doing it. So now let us try to find out how to find out the square root actually, and what are the steps involved in it. So for that, let us take an example of any number for which you want to find out the square root. Say for example, you have to find out the square root of 5476. So what are the steps involved in it? Well, the first step is divide this number into two parts. Right part with 2 digits. Well, how? Like this, 5476. The rightmost part should have 2 digits. Well, then the next step is find out in its root what should be the number. As you remember, I told you earlier, 1, 4, 5, 6, 9, 0. If it is 1, it must have started from 1 or 9. 4 must be from 2 or 8. 5 must be, root must have 5, only then it becomes 5 square 5. If it is 6, then it must be 4 or it must be 6. If it is 9, it must be 3 or 7, and 0 is 0, that we have already seen earlier. That means if it is 6 here, it must have started from 4 or 6. The root in its first place must have 4 or 6. That is the second thing. The third thing is, let us look at the left part, 54. This 54 you have to estimate where does it lie. It lies somewhere. 7 square is equal to 49 and 8 square is equal to 64. So it cannot become 8 because 54 is less than this and 8 square is 64. That means it must be 7. It cannot be 8. It must be 7. If it is 7, that means what? It cannot be 8. You have understood it because it is 64. It must be 7. If it is 7, the answer must be 74 because its first digit might be 4 or it may be 6 only. So it's 76. Either 74 or 76. The answer, since it must be 7 in the left hand side, the answer must be 74 or it must be 76. 74 or 76. Now you have to decide which one is the actual answer. For that, we'll take help of another formula sutra that we have already used, and that is, let us try to find out the square of 75, and through ekadhik and purven, we know that 75 into 75, the total of the first two digits, the ones place is 10 and this at the second place the numbers are same, then you can use one more than the one before, ekadhik and purven. One more than the one before means multiply this with 8. 7 into 8 is 56 and 5 square is equal to 25. That is the answer. So 75 square is 5625. But we require the square root of 5476. Now this 5625 is more than 5476. That means our answer must be less than 75. Because 75 square is 5625, which is more than this. Our answer, our square root must be less than 75. And if it is less than 75, out of this 74 and 76, 74 must be the answer. So the answer is, the square root is 74. It's very clear. I think you have understood it. What we have done? We have divided this into two parts. And then what we have seen, after dividing this into two parts, we have seen these two parts. When you make the division, at least there must be 2 digits, not at least, but there must be 2 digits only in the first part. And then the left part is the remaining part. Now here, in the first part, 76, we have to see what is the root. The first digit of the root must be, if it is 6 here, the root must have 4 or 6 as the first digit. That means what? It must have 4 or 6 as the first digit. The root must have 4 or 6 as the first digit. Now let us try to look at the left hand side, 54. This 54, we know 7 square is 49, 8 square is 64. So it cannot become 8 because 8 square is more than 54. So it must be 7. If it is 7, then the answer must be 74 or 76, which you do not know. 74 or 76, something. Now if it is 74 and 76, let us try to find out what is 75 square. 75 square by ekadhik and purven is 5625 and 5625 is more than this. That means it must be less than 75. So answer must be 74. This way we have found out the answer. So we will take another example, next example, from where we can understand it further. Yes. So let us now try to find out the square root of 14884. We have to find out the square root of 14884. Now here, since it ends in 4, it must be a perfect square. So there is nothing to think about it. Well, so what I said, the first step is what? If you remember, divide this number into two parts where the part in the right side must have 2 digits. 84. Now here, this 84 ends in 4. If it ends in 4, the root must have either 2 or 8 in its first digit. Whatever be that root, the square of that will end in 4 if it is 2 and 8. That is the thing. That is the first part. So now let us look at the left side. The left side, the number is 148. Now think of the squaring of numbers 10 square is 100, 11 square is 121, 12 square is 144, and 13 square is 169. Now 169 is bigger than 148, so it cannot be 169. So it will be somewhere more than or 12 or more than that, right? So the root must be either 122 because 2 is at the last, or it will become 128, right? It can be either 122 or 128 because 13 square is more than 148 and our number is little more than 12, so it must be either 122 or 128. That is what we have to find out. Now, since there are two numbers now, 122 and 128, we have to find out which is the actual number. Now, if we make the squaring of number in between, in particular, we know that 125, and if you can make the square of 125, you will get some idea. Now, 125 square is how much? How do you get that? 125 square is, for 125 square, you remember by Ekadhikan Purben, 125 into 125. Here, the total of the number is 10 and it is same, the number is same 12. Here, we can do it through Ekadhikan Purben. So, multiply 12 with 13 and we get 156 and 5 5s are 25. So, that is the square of 125. Well, so that means what? If you make it 125 square, it's 15625. But our number is 14884, but 15625 is more than this. If it is more than this, it must be less than 125. The root must be less than 125. Less than 125 means the answer must be 122 because the answer can be either 122 or 128. If it is less than 125, it must be 122. So the answer is 122. Answer is 122. Our square root is 122 and nothing else. Well, I think you have understood it. I'll do it once again. Divide this into 148 and 84. And since it is 4, it must have, the root must have either 2 or 8 in the first place, in the first digit. And then see the left part. In the left part, think about the squaring of numbers. 10 square is 100, 11 square 121, 12 square is 144, 13 square is 169. Our number is within this 144 and 169, but it cannot be 13 because 13 square is 169. So it must be somewhere little more than 12 or it more than that, right? So if it is 12 or more than that means what? We have to now try to find out whether it is 122 because if it is 12, then it should be either 122 or it should be either 128, right? Any of these, any number in between this 120 and 28. But if it is so, let us try to find out a number in between 125 whose square is 15625. Very simple through our Ekadhikan Purban. Once you practice this, it will become very simple. Just by looking at it, you can do it. 15625. It cannot be 125 because 15625 is more than this. It must be less than 125. And if it is less than 125 means it must be 122. There is no other way out. Because 128 will become bigger, right? So it's 122. The answer is 122. Now let us do another question. The next question for you is that let us find out the square root of 7569. 7569. So the first step is, as I told you earlier, divide this into two parts, 69, 75. It can be 9 only when it ends in 3 or 7. The root must have 3 or 7. Now let us look at the left hand side, 75. 8 8s are 64, 9 9s are 81. 8 square is equal to 64. 9 square is equal to 81, right? So it cannot be 9 because it is more than this 75. So it must be 8 or something more than that. Well, so if it is more than 8, it must be the first part must start with the 8. So answer must be either 83 or 87. 83 or 87. It cannot be 9 because it's more than this. It must be 8 here. So it must be 83 or 87. Now we have to find out what is the number, either 83 or 87. Which one is the number? For that, we'll see what is the square of 85. The square of 85 by Ekadhik and Purven, 1 more than 8 is 9, 8 9s are 72, 25. 72, 25 is less than 7569. 7225 is less than 7569. That means what? It is more than 5. It's more than 5. So it cannot be 83. It must be 787. Are you getting my point? It must be 87. Because if you make 85 square, it's 7225, which is less than this. So it cannot become 85 or less than that. It must be more than that. And then the answer must be 87. The answer is what? 87. I think you have followed it. 6, 9 ends in 3 or 7. Only when there is in the root there is 3 or 7. And then left part, 8 square is 64, 9 square is 81. It cannot be 9. It must be 8 here. And if it is 8, it must be 83 or 87. For 85 square is 7225, which is less than this. So it cannot become 85 or less than that. It must be more than 85. So the answer must be 87. It's simple. Once you follow this, it's become very simple, and very simply you can find out the square root of the number. Let us find out the square root of our last question so that you can really understand a little bigger. 42849. So the first step is divide this into two parts. Now this is 9 means what? In the root it must have started from 3 or 7. There must be 3 or 7 in the root, the first digit of the root. Now let us try to think of the left side. Left side, now you have to think about. Well, 20 square is 400. Fine. 21 square is 441. 22 square is 21 square is more than this. 20 square is 400 and 21 square is 441. So it cannot be 21 because it's more than 428. It's more than 428. So it must be 20. It must be 20. The first part must be, this part must be 20. And if this part is 20, then the number must be 203 or 207. 3 or 7 is the number, must be in the root. 3 or 7 is the first number, the first digit. And 20 square is 400, 21 square is 441, 441 is more than this, so it must be 20, and then the answer must be 203 or 207. We have to find out which one is the answer. For that, let us see the square of 205 in between. 205 again here, Ekadhik and Purven, 20 into 21, how much is there? 420, and 5 5s are 25. The answer is 42025. Now here, this our number is, for which the square root is to be find out, is 42849, which is more than this. That means the root must be more than 205, because 205 is 42025 and we want the number 42849. It must be more than 205, and if it is more than 25, then it cannot be 203, it must be 207. So the answer is 207. I think you have followed it. It's very simple. It's very easy. Again, just one more time I will make you clear every step. 1 4 5 6 9 0. These are the numbers for which the roots must have the first digit numbers of this, right? Now, when you get the number, to find out the square root of the number, divide it into two parts. The first part must have 2 digits, and then you find out if it is 9, then what must be the number in the root? Either 3 or 7. 3 or 7, nothing more than that. And then Let us look at the left part, 428. For that, what is the square? 20 square is 400, 21 square is 441. It cannot become 21. So it must be 20 because 441 is more than this. So if it is 20, the left part, the total part should be either 203 or 207. The root must be 203 or 207. You have to find out which one. In between there is 205. At 205, by ekadhikan when it's 42025, 42025 is less than this. So that means the root must be more than 205. If it is more than 205, it cannot be 203, it must be 207. So answer is 207. I hope you have understood it. Things are not difficult. Only thing is you have to follow the steps which I told you here. Well, now let me give you some exercises for you which you can try yourself. Well, 529, 2209, 1276, 2809, 2809, 3844, 12769, 15376, 18225, 14161, 19600. Please try these problems yourself by this method. Once you practice this, your concept will become very clear. Just follow what I said and try to solve these problems yourself. Right? Things are very easy and easily you can do. So, what you have done today? We have seen how to find out the square root of the perfect square. And I told the perfect squares are those, the square where by squaring, in the root of the square there is no decimal at all. Right? 8 square 64, 9 square 81, these are all perfect squares. Right? So you have to find out that. That is what we have seen, the method by which you can find out the square root of perfect squares. Right? I hope you have understood it. And the things are not difficult at all, but if you practice it, things will become very easier. Please do practice these problems yourself so that you may not have any difficulty. But if at all you have got any question or any problem, please do write in the comments box so that I can respond to that. Well, if it is so, then if you have liked this video, then please do subscribe to my channel, hit the bell icon, and please share it with others so that others can also learn Vedic mathematics by joining this course. Well, what you are going to do the next time? Well, the next time we are going to find out something which is the cubing of numbers close to base. We have finished our squaring part. Now we are going to see the cubing. So the next thing is what we are going to find out is the cubing of numbers which are close to base. Cubing means multiplying anything 3 times. 2 into 2 into 2, right? That is cubing, right? 3 into 3 into 3, that's cubing. So the cubing of numbers close to base, that's what we are going to see our next time. So till the time I meet you again with my next session, all the best. Please take care of yourself.